teenager story time. I went to an all-boys Catholic private school. As a result, I had to wear a uniform every day, and I had to have short hair. Well, senior year, I ignored that last rule. I wanted to get girls, so I grew out the flow. But every day I walked into school, I would get in trouble by my principal, but I didn't care. Until one Friday, I walked into school, and my principal saw me. And he said, "Zach, I am sick of the blatant disrespect. If you come into school on Monday and your hair is not cut, you are getting suspended for the whole week." And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get the haircut. The weekend passes, and could you guess it? I didn't get a haircut. Why? Because I just forgot. I walk into school Monday, my hair flowing like a Greek god. But soon as I entered that school, his words came fresh into my mind. So I avoid his office entirely and get to my homeroom. And as I'm sitting there wondering how I'm gonna make it through the day without getting seen, an announcement rings through the school. And it was my principal was gonna be out of school for the whole week because his brother died on the weekend. I don't know whether to call it coincidence, luck, or fate, but the only logical conclusion that I could come to is that my beautiful, luscious locks killed a man.
You know what hurts worse than any beating, any fight with your girl? Is seeing your homeboy get cheated on. My guy was literally the most down-to-earth, nice guy I ever met. Got cheated on and became the Green Goblin. I mean, he was just a bad dude. They started dating their senior year of high school. I met him my freshman year of college. She cheated, at least we found out, his junior year of college. I'm not finna sit here and get into specifics, but we went to a college party at her campus. And when he said, "Oh yeah, that's my girl," everybody was looking at him funny. That's when he found out his girl was now their girl. Call that a non-binary girlfriend. I remember the day after we went to that party, I was looking at his private story. He got back the TV he bought her, the iPad he bought her, the dirty wax-filled AirPod case he bought her. But the craziest thing I saw him get back was the homecoming dress he bought her. I'm not gonna sit here and say I blame the dude, but how mad does a girl gotta get you to ask for a homecoming dress back? I don't never want to find out.
At the peak of my Fight Club days, I was living life. I'd casually spend my weekends at home watching YouTube, eating away my winnings and junk. Unfortunately, my Fight Clubbin' got me a fan. We'll call him Pim for privacy. Pim was a year older than me, black hair, slightly taller, and scrawnier. Pim introduced himself to me after I just drop-kicked a younger child down a very large hill. He said he'd watched a couple of fights, and I did recognize him as an easy ticket. I said what's up, and he revealed to me that we actually live on the same street. I tell him to show me, and we walk home together to reveal, yeah, he was like 2 houses down from me across the street. This was all honky-dory until Pim began dressing like me, following me during our breaks. And the worst part, every day he'd walk home with me and ask to chill. Every single day for months. Finally, after I'd learned I was going to move again, Pim asked me, "Hey man, you wanna chill again?" "No, get a life, goddamn!" I went to walk away when Pim grabbed my shoulder. And gut punch, quick hook, and good slam! Were my actions justified or reasonable in any way? No. Did I get him to leave me alone after that? See.
I was recently at the gas station, and a nice young lady in front of me was getting harassed by the worker. And I remember I pushed her aside, and I was like, "I'll take this from here." And I remember I pointed at him, and I was like, You say one more word, and this will be your last day on the job." And he finally quit, and I reassured her, that she's okay and she's safe. And I threatened him. I told him, I will punch you in the freaking mouth. And he backed off. He saw me, and I scared him.
This kid would lie about his age to play against everyone in soccer on the weekends, and we still don't know how he got around it, dude. Because you had to have a laminated player card. Now on your player card was a headshot, it was your date of birth, and it was a club you played for. No way you can get around that, right? I guess not. This man had to be like McLovin. He had just all kinds of IDs or something because he played everyone. He played U10s, he played U15s, he played U18s, he played against you, he played against your brother, he played against your mom. He played everyone. And he was an animal, dude. He was so good. I think he ended up playing like semi-pro in Germany, I heard, which I'm not shocked if that's the case. And for whatever reason, we'd always tell the rest, we're like, he does this every weekend. He just played against my little brother. There's no way. There's no way. He's lying on one of those. And they were like, well, it looks legitimate to me. And he's from somewhere in Africa. We're not sure where. But there isn't always the best record keeping in Africa with some birthdays. And this was super common, especially among Somalis, where you wouldn't really know your birthday, so they'd say, pick one. And that's what happened. That doesn't mean it changes, though. The year doesn't change. So this man was crazy. He was so good. And it was always a long day when he had to play him.
I'm much closer with my coworkers than I have been at any other workplace. I was recently assaulted after a horrible date went catastrophically wrong, leaving me with a very obvious bruise on my lip from being bitten, and fingerprints on one of my forearms. I've been wearing long sleeves to obscure the fingerprint bruising, but no amount of concealer has been enough to hide the teeth marks on my lip. Under normal circumstances I would probably take a week off to try and recover physically and mentally, but with the tax deadline coming up there's just way too much to do for that to be an option and I can't work from home. Taking the time off would mean adding at least 10 to 15 hours of work to every other admin's plate, and doing that would only make me feel worse about the situation. Obviously I would prefer not to recount the details of a very traumatic incident over and over again, but every time I walk to the break room, copier, or bathroom I find myself cornered by another well-meaning coworker who wants to interrogate me about what happened. A simple "I'm fine but would prefer not to discuss it" hasn't been enough to deter the increasingly intrusive questions, even when firmly repeated. The general response when I push back on giving more information is something along the lines of "I need to make sure you're safe. But we're friends, why don't you trust me enough to tell me?" Or "You can't come into the office looking like that and expect us not to ask questions. We're a small accounting firm so we don't have a HR department, and the person who would probably handle a HR issue is the person trying the hardest to get more information out of me." I understand the bruising is quite shocking, but I feel like I'm entitled to privacy during what has become a very difficult period of my life.
The time I cried at school, but before I tell the story, I've only cried once. But I'm gonna give y'all some context. I'm the only black boy in my grade. It's the day before we go on spring break, so my teachers don't want to teach. So what do? They throw on movies. And when teachers throw on movies, what do? They gotta dim the lights. So they turn off the lights. I'm African, right? My top op, the same dude we backdoor a couple years later, he goes, "Where'd Brian go? Where'd Brian go?" And the only people that were laughing were his friends. But since nobody laughed, he had to get in his bag and he goes, "Shh, shh, shh. Wait, I see Brian right there. I can see his teeth." Everybody started dying. Even my crush. She looked like she didn't even want to laugh, but she chuckled, then started dying, man. But it don't matter. Big Eli helped me get my get back.
So I'm a bonus dad, right? And it's fucking fantastic. I love it so much. Now, I may or may not have told my little one too many times that I grew up poor, right? Now, my parents worked very hard to make sure that we ate, but we never had McDonald's monies. And I make sure to tell her that, like, McDonald's is a treat, right? And so my little girl is the kindest human being I have ever met in my life, right? Just to set the stage. Okay, so last week we was driving to her daddy's house, and she looking out the window, and I'm driving, and she goes, "Colin, can we have a lemonade stand?" I was like, "Sure, why not? What do you want to do with the money that you make?" And she was like, we're going to send it to your mom and dad. And I was like, "So they can come visit?" And she was like, "No, they need money." And I was like, "Baby, my parents aren't poor anymore." She's like, "Yeah, but do they have McDonald's monies?" "I feel like they don't have McDonald's monies." I was like, "Sweetie, I appreciate where your heart is at, but don't do that."
Okay, middle school boy story time. Family comes in, nice 12-year-old boy named Jared. And I always ask people coming in, I say, "Well, what'd you do over spring break?" or "What'd you do over the summer?" So this group had just gotten back from spring break. So I said, "Jared, what'd you do over spring break?" So Jared, in typical middle school boy posture, says, "I don't know, we watched a lot of Xbox, or played a lot of Xbox and watched a lot of TV." Then silence. And I look over at his mother, and his mother's just like sitting there on the seat, and she's like, come on, say it, tell him what we did. I know you can remember, Jared. And still Jared simply sits there and says, "That's about it." And I said, "So Jared, all you did over spring break is you watched YouTube and TV and played Xbox?" And he said, "Yeah." So I look over at his mother finally, and she can't control it anymore. She says, "Jared, we went to Spain. You got on an airplane. You crossed an ocean. You saw a bullfight. How could you not remember this?" So Jared looks at me with no expression, says, "Oh yeah, we went to Spain." I tell you one thing about middle school boys, that they are storytellers.